Today, Sunday, the 19th of April, is a big day in astrology. It's one that has been the subject of conversation of astrologers for actually decades now, looking towards this moment in time. And the big transit, the big news today is the planet Mars, which can symbolize war, aggression, cutting, severing, action, direction, and courage, is making a direct conjunction in Aries. And Saturn is typically thought of as limits and restriction and boundaries and shut doors and the mountain you have to climb in this world. And some of those are truisms. But what I really want to focus on today is the fact that Saturn is the last planet we can see with our visible eyes. It really has an energy of mysticism around it because it is the threshold between the known and the unknown. And with that sextile that conjunction is making to Pluto, the planet that really truly wants us to pick up power in appropriate, healthy, and effective ways, is making a harmonious aspect to Pluto while that conjunction is happening, is an opportunity to take the collective, I was going to say angst, but it truly is the rage, the overwhelm, the pain, of all of our individual wounds, and especially the injuries that are coming up for women and people who really care about women and children in the collective around abuses of power. And this moment, because the Sun Chiron conjunction is still roughly still in effect, in the context of that new moon energy we just had 2 days ago, is truly a moment to face our fears, conquer our demons, and stand and be counted in the power that we can assume when we are fed up, absolutely at our wits' end, in despair, and really don't know what else to do. Because here's the beauty of this moment and what has come up by this horrible thing that's been revealed in this news article. It's sort of like, can it get worse? Can the exploitation and harm done to women and children get worse? Can we find out more? And the answer every day this year seems to be yes. And it's not that any of these things are new. And most of us that work with survivors of abuse and violence, particularly people who work with refugees and people who live in war-torn countries, know that, horrific things have happened to vulnerable people, throughout millennium. But what is really newer is the volume and the exposure to the information and the repetitive images, and also just understanding how deep the power structures go that are complicit in so many acts of violence. So my invitation to you is to take the anger, take the rage, and we're talking about that in this video, how to do that. Take the moment really of truth as a pivot point for how you are going to stand and be counted around what is true for you. And I had a really visceral experience of this where I honestly stepped over my own power and sort of let it down, and I'll explain to you why. On Thursday, on the day that this I don't know. I'm such a tiny channel. Can I say rape? I'm going to say rape because I don't want to say grape because that's not what it is. But this Rape Academy crap, I probably shouldn't swear, so I'll be careful about that. Came out on a day when I went out to, if you've been paying attention to my channel, I go line dancing. So this guy that I had never seen before was there, and he seemed very nervous about not knowing the dances, and I honestly don't even remember. This is probably my own trauma response, and I'm sharing this with you because I think so many women right now have been in years, if not decades, but especially in 2026, where our nervous systems are so fried from being exposed to information about a lot of the kinds of abuses we have personally experienced. And so I can't actually tell you exactly what happened between me and this guy because I think he moved my hand and pulled me to be behind next to him so he could watch me. And then he wanted to be able to have my friend in front of me somewhere closer to him. So from behind, he came up and put his hands on her bare waist because she had a very cute crop top on. She's in incredible shape, and physically tried to move her like somewhere he wanted her to go. And she looked at me and I looked at him, and I had this moment of, am I going to say something to him? And I know so many of you can relate to this. I had so many thoughts going through my head, like, I just wanted to have a good time. I just wanted to dance. I didn't want to create a scene. I didn't want to get into it with this, maybe youngish boomer age man who I didn't know. I just wanted to freaking get into the dance, which we'd already started learning. But it has really eaten at me that I didn't say anything to him. And she and I both looked at each other and I just thought, this is Mars conjunct Saturn, sextiling Pluto, where we have a moment to say, what is really true for me around control, around aggression, around really patriarchal energies? What am I going to tolerate anymore? And what is true for me? So, of course, you might imagine I've rehearsed in my head like what I could have said and what I would say next time. And it is so terrifying for women, particularly, to simply like say, please don't touch me without asking, without being called a crazy bitch, a hysterical, a lunatic, and much worse than that, as I'm sure you're aware. That I think that conditioning really took over for me. And I had to make a decision. Am I going to have fun or am I going to like stand in my truth? So I'm using personally this, and this is why I'm sharing the story, this conjunction, this astrology to practice even more. And if you've watched some of my other videos, you know that I've like stabbed a guy in a ski pole that tried to knock me down a hill once. And I've have many other stories I could tell you where when I was really summoning my courage and through acknowledging my own rage in my nervous system, there was lots of like clumsy moments, particularly with men. But this moment, and I'm bringing up men because Pluto really symbolizes so many things around misuse of power, sexual secrets, and sexual exploitation in its really lowest, darkest form. It also can symbolize great personal spiritual power, riches, and wealth, not just the resources that we find below the ground, because that's the correlation there. The Lord God Hades is, yes, the god of the underworld, but also everything that we really value, we give material value to on the earth, comes from underneath the earth. Diamonds, precious minerals, gems, etc. All that is kind of forged deep below, as is a lot of the healing journey that those of us who have experienced abuse, violence, neglect, etc., have been on through the course of our lives. So here's how I really want you to think about this. One, it's an opportunity to face our own Mars, anger and aggression, Saturn, feeling controlled and restricted or limited in our expression, because Mercury is going to make a conjunction to Saturn Monday, the next day, the day after this, tomorrow, and Chiron, our childhood wounding typically. So it's a time to face our own Mars, anger, aggression, perhaps misuse of power when we're young, Saturn, feelings of constriction, we couldn't speak our voice. Saturn is going to conjunct Mercury the next day on Monday, and that Chiron that is still next to the sun, our childhood injuries, really face that material in this moment and refuse to be identified with it any longer, but rather move into a place where we've decided we are going to take on a new identity, because that's the sextile to Pluto. Sextile aspects give us opportunities that we have to take. It's kind of like the one that I missed on Thursday. And it's not too late. It's not too late for me. It's not too late for you. Unfortunately, we're all going to have lots more opportunities to bring our voice forward, to stand in our power, to own our truth. And we can do that clumsily, which is fine. And we can do that through practice, and we can do it impulsively. I think it's really important to not judge ourselves, but rehearsal helps. So I'd like you to think of your version of what happened to me in line dancing last week. I'd like you to think about maybe the ex that you're thinking about, or maybe a former spouse that's come up in your mind since this Rape Academy stuff came out. So what that looks like can actually be reduced to really simply practicing your no. No, that's really all I needed to do in that moment. When that man touched me, whatever happened, I wish I could remember. And let me know below in the comments. Like, I'm genuinely curious if any of you have things happen like this where you just can't recall, because what our brains do when we have familiar forms of threatening experiences, even though I did not feel afraid of this man, I just know that a lot came up around my past in the moment that signaled to my amygdala to fire up. And the amygdala, is the back brain here. It's the lizard brain. And the part of the brain called the hippocampus that retains memory is not needed for survival when the lizard brain thinks you're in danger. And so it's really hard to remember things exactly the way they happened. So practicing what we will do in moments where we might freeze, we might fawn, and those are really needed adaptive survival responses. I'm not telling you not to do that, but I think it's a moment where when I say we need to stand and be counted, this is the Pluto opportunity, is to say no more. That's what's happened for me. I just was like, you know what? That's the last time I observe that or allow that to happen to me or see it happen to another woman, and I remain silent. Because I genuinely don't think that this guy is some bad, horrible monster at all. I actually think he was just very unconscious, and he's of a generation and a time, or maybe grew up somewhere on the planet where this is like an okay, normal thing to do, to touch women and move them. And by the way, he was moving us so that he could learn to dance better and follow us. So it's like, I've decided I am no longer complicit in being used as an object to, serve a man's needs, even if it's on the dance floor, much less in a relationship. And that's a decision I made a very long time ago. But yet we are, as women, given these opportunities all over the place, just in everyday life. So practice your no. No, no. And that's an amazing skill that I now teach to clients all the time, to when we feel this rage, to have the courage to do what I really want to do next time. I need to practice that no. No, 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 no. I don't want to make the speakers, bust your ears out by saying my loudest no, but practicing that makes it easier in life to carry no energy. And here's the thing, a lot of women are afraid of that because we don't want to become a hardened person. We don't want to be angry all the time. But what the beautiful thing is that I've learned from this practice is that when you lose your no, when you swallow your no, when you've buried your no, you lose your yes. You don't know what is actually a yes to you either. And that you see in terms of motivation and drive and clarity about your life purpose and what you really want and how you show up even sexually with your partner. Like it shows up absolutely everywhere. So practice your no to get to your yes. What the no practice also helps us with is using this astrology, taking the opportunity to unblend from the fusion of our identities with our wounds, with places where maybe we've been the aggressor, Mars, Saturn, Pluto. Maybe the lowest octave in us, which exists in all of us, is here to really be faced right now. And I invite you, if you see yourself in any of this really horrible material that has surfaced around what men do to women, this is the time to get your butt in therapy. This is the time to talk to the men in your life when you see them, even just move, because it seems like a jest in our society, move a woman to where they'd like her to be on the dance floor without asking, or simply just using words instead of like physical touch on her bare skin. It's just so freaking crazy to me that this still happens. But I know that you observe probably in your friend circle way worse things than that. And this is the time where, particularly men, we need you to call it out. And we need, as women, to say, no. I'm going to get so comfortable with my no that I own more of a survivor than any of the prior sort of like identity fusion to victimhood that we might have held. And I say that with compassion because it's really easy to let our injuries define us and really honestly give us an argument for our limitations. So this is another time to use that Sun Chiron energy to say, because that's a new synodic cycle that won't happen for another roughly a year before Chiron gets another conversation with the sun. When the archetype of our deepest wounds and insecurities from childhood meets with the sun, it actually has an opportunity to get not just burned up as it does when it gets closed, but when it's really conjunct, which we call cazimi, it actually gets a renewed sense of life and renewed vitality. And that is why this is such a powerful moment, is because we have all of these major aspects happening at the same time, that this archetype of wounding is getting infused with healing, wisdom, energy, and a new plan for the future. So as much as, again, you're going to keep saying like, time is now, don't miss this opportunity, do your new moon, blah, blah, blah. No, no, don't listen to all of that. Know that this is a moving forward cycle. I mean, with Mars and Saturn, it's a couple years. With Chiron, it's a year, and there's so many other outer planet transits that are going to last much, much longer than that. The main thing to remember is that knowing who you are and what you will say no to is going to give you much clearer traction for the yeses moving forward. If there's something in your life that you're done with, you will find the motivation. This is going to push you forward. And I'm going to talk about Uranus and Gemini next week, because that's going to be a big help for a lot of us to break karmic cycles. But just know that, like, you're on the path. If you know something's not working in your life and you own your no, you're going to move forward. You're going to take the steps. So find that for yourself this week and just start thinking about and writing down a few things over the next week, over the next 3 months, over the next 6 months that are the general trend of what you would need to do to just move in the direction of what is actually the place of your personal power now. Okay, 3 M's for today. So the meditation for this transit is, and you can do a journal prompt, you can just sit in meditation and reflect on this. You can just kind of ask your subconscious to work on it while you're sleeping. There's many ways to work with meditation. And this would be, where do I have a pattern of swallowing my no to be agreeable? Really think, and over maybe even the course of your life, but certainly in recent history, where has that just become your default setting? Like, unfortunately, it still is mine. And again, when you're a member of an oppressed population, you're going to do what you need to do to survive. So this is not me telling you like all that's somehow dysfunctional. It's just that now is the time to really peel that back and see if we can practice a different way of being, if that's going to serve us now. In terms of the mirror work, I want you to look in the mirror and do the no work, looking in your own left eye. So you can do this, you can start it like under a blanket, you can start it just, out loud in the car, but I really encourage you to do the no practice. No, 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 no. Find the swallowed no's in your body and one by one articulate them. I'm going to be doing this for that line dancing night until you feel like you're done. That's your mirror work. I want you to see the power and feel the power in your own eyes. It will likely bring up tears, and that is okay. Know that in the holding of the container of the mirror work, you're giving yourself the chance to make contact with anger and that rage and the hurt and fear and maybe even terror that's underneath that in a safe way. Generally what happens is that might get really intense emotionally for you, and then it will go down. And obviously, if at any time you feel overwhelmed, please reach out for professional help. Third is your mantra for the week. I stand on my truth. I hope this is helpful. Please let me know. I so appreciate it when you share, like, subscribe, and hype the video. I think that really pushes it to more people. Algorithm is a little tricky these days. Thank you so much for the kind comments that I received about moving into my own truth around astrology and psychotherapy in my practice and on my YouTube channel. I so appreciate it. Check out these videos above, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.